ready?
Yeah.
When food and life meet, Rancho Capistrano Winery.
Yeah, that's it. I'll take it. That was perfect.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Whoa, Jackie, hold on. Let's start with the food before you dig into that mimosa flight.
You know what, Sylvia, you're right. I should probably do that. But we're going to get through it all, right?
Yeah, of course we are.
Oh my gosh. Look at all this food, Sylvia. What an honor.
I know. Oh, we just love this food. And what an honor to have you here and try it out. I can't wait to hear what you think of it.
Sylvia, where are we? You want to tell everybody where we are right now?
Yeah, we're at Rancho Capistrano Winery in beautiful downtown San Juan Capistrano.
And what is your connection to this place, Sylvia?
Oh my gosh, well, we are a winery as well as a restaurant. And so this area really had the first grape, the first wine grape. People don't know that.
I didn't know that until right now. Oh my gosh.
So there's a big connection, and the community is lovely and warm, and it is our first location out of the 3 that we have. So this place here has a near and dear place in our hearts.
Well, I just feel very special to be here in your company, in your food, in your space. Like it's wonderful to see such an accomplished Latina here doing her thing, and we love food here. So it's just it's going to be an honor to talk to you about how you got here, everything. We've had a conversation offline, but it's just it's going to be really wonderful to share your story, empowering as we navigate this thing called life. I guess it's
exactly. It's really about the journey, and you're right. It's not really about the destination, but it's everything that happens. And this was a dream. My husband and I are the owners, and he was in finance and for many years, and kind of burnt out in that field. And I was in sales, advertising, and marketing.
Advertising.
I just love advertising, and I do, and I loved it, and did it for really 36 years. One day we were talking, and we were here in beautiful San Juan Capistrano, having dinner. Talking about life, love, and the pursuit of happiness, and really about what we wanted to do in this next iteration of Kyle's career. He was still young, didn't want to, give up. We talked a lot about food, a lot about wine, a lot about travel. And when I asked him, and I said, what would you do, outside of finance? And he looks over, and he's just like, open up a winery restaurant. And I was like, okay, wait a minute. And he had this whole plan in his head based on really our conversations and our travel and our, all the inspirations. And, he said, this is what I envision, and it's something that we could eventually do together.
My God.
And I said, okay, well, that location is everything. I said, let's find the right location. And we are walking down this beautiful yes, and the lights and the people and the energy. And we see this building. Now, this building did not look like this at all. It was actually pretty torn down and so on, but it was a historical building, 100 years old, right by the train station. And I said to him, if we can get this place, I'm all in. And so he's like, okay. And the next day he called the city, found out that, quite frankly, this was the only location that was available. So we felt like it was meant to be. And then it just kind of took off from there. We put our business plan together, and we took it to the city, and they loved what we were doing. They were glad that we weren't just a chain, that this was family owned, that it would be a husband-wife duo, that it would be a family, because San Juan is very family oriented and so on. So it was lovely. So the city embraced us, and we started the plans building out, doing all the getting our securing all the financing for it and everything. And it really, the doors opened. I mean, we were meant to be here. The doors were just open. We didn't have any major hurdles, and quite frankly, what's really cool that people don't know is that initially we were just negotiating the entrance part of it, kind of the smaller area of this restaurant, and at the time it was like an office building. I don't know what it was, knocked it down. But then, and the back part was a bus stop. It was
like
a bus stop.
The patio.
Yeah,
right
it was
there?
a patio area,
Wow.
and it had this tree that was very old. And the city said, "We love your vision so much. We feel like you can do more, and we'd like to offer you that part of it as well, and help build it out for you." And so then we were just like, and that was game changing. That patio was game changing.
Oh, it's beautiful.
This gorgeous 3,000 square foot patio, and just started designing it, knocking it down, building out. It probably took a good year and a half. We established in 2012 and then opened their doors in April of 2014.
Wow,
so
here we are, 10 years later.
10 years, so we keep saying cheers to 10 years.
I mean, cheers to 10 years, and cheers to this amazing food, because I mean, naturally, I have so many questions about the food, and like, how do you? So let's like dive into start trying some of this food.
Absolutely.
So let's start with how. Okay, so I'm just gonna start picking at some of this stuff, and you too as well. But why don't you walk me through, like, you guys love food and wine, and so how do you even begin to like come up with this menu? This is like, I'm just gonna start picking.
Just dig in. So the inspiration really comes from our travels. A lot of our travels, a lot of our background. This that you're diving into, it's just this stuff. So a lot of things we see when we travel, right? And then we're like, and then now we got to make it our own. So this here is a brioche stuffed toast, like a French toast, and it's cream cheese in there with just some berries and homemade, house-made whipped cream. Oh, it's so yummy, right? Yeah, it's just so delicious.
No, this is
with maple syrup, and it's one of our fan favorites. I mean, people absolutely go nuts over the flavor.
Stuff.
No, this is really,
like,
we're talking award-winning chef Adrian De La Torre III. He is cordon bleu trained, and he just knows how to make these dishes so spectacular. So that's what this is. It's a great appetizer. We serve it for brunch at all of our locations, and it's just delicious.
It's so good. I was going to ask you, like, you make the decision, right? You're like, we're gonna have this space.
Yep.
What, like, and you know you're gonna travel and you're gonna find this food, but what was there anything on the menu where you're like, this is a very important, like, how do you, like?
Well, first we sort of like, what are, Kyle's a big foodie, so that's it. And, I'm a big foodie. I've become a big foodie being married to him, because it's really about, like, the food. We love it so much. And everything, it's not just the food, but it's the relationships that happen when you're eating, right? Yes. And the conversations, and every wine bottle has a story, and we just feel like the combination. So really, we start to think, I mean, I love salads. I love avocado. I love anything crunchy. What do we have? An avocado crunch salad.
Oh my God.
And then we're having and preparing it, and then we find we're missing something. And I'm testing it out with a friend, and we looked at each other, and we're like, pepitas, it needs pepitas. And so we added that. And that's what's so great, is that we're curating the food as we're going. We have test kitchens. We serve it to our employees to make sure that they love it and understand it, and weigh in on the salad. But every single salad is inspired by something. We really are healthy, but we want it to also taste delicious.
Yes, right.
Because people equate sometimes healthy food that is tasteless, but not our food. It is the combination of the ingredients just make it so special.
Well, dig in. You grab something too. I don't want to be just
all right.
the only one eating.
I know.
You growing up, can you walk us through kind of like, what was it for you? Like, what kind of food you liked growing up in your home? Like, what did that look like for you?
Well,
I want to hear it.
Okay, well, I'm Latina, I'm Mexican, so everything that we did centered around food. My mom was a phenomenal cook, and actually my dad was too.
Oh, yeah, what? You never hear that.
I know, and they were both really, really great cooks. And historic, like, their families were great cooks, and my aunts were great cooks. And so everything really centered around the food. And you know what? We had food for everyone. We were a family of 7. There were 5 kids, my parents, and we had food for everybody. So part of the inspiration is, you know, like everybody's welcome, and food does that, you know. And so we had the dishes we prepared, everything from Mexican dishes. You know, my mom knew how to cook things for the girls, you know, and we would have an abundance of salads and greens, but you know, we'd also have this, you know, here. And so cooking at home was a big deal. And we were very traditional, you know, tamales during Christmas time. And I'm not quite there on my tamales, but we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there.
Do you think you'll ever have tamales here?
I will. You never say never.
You never say never.
Yeah, never say never.
Imagine.
Yeah, our kids love our tamales. Yeah, so that's what it was like at home. It was all centered around food and family and friendship and, quite frankly, all the things that make up Rancho Capistrano Winery. It's like, you know, food, family, community, all of that. And so we basically said, you know, we're going to replicate our home life experiences and bring it to the winery.
I love that.
And so that's it.
Can we talk about this one?
Okay, this is so good.
This is very...
You have got to try. This is the fig bruschetta. Oh my gosh, it's so yummy.
Bruschetta.
Yeah, and it's like this whipped fig cream and combined with the arugula. Oh, and there's a little
I'm gonna give one to Anna.
Yeah, Anna, you got to try this.
Anna's like...
So Kyle and I are at a restaurant in LA, and we have a version of this. And we said, oh, we've got to replicate this. But of course, you know, Kyle, replicate it. We're going to make it better. So we're just like, okay, we're going to make it better. Yes. And so this here is the whipped, and I'm telling you, this is a fan favorite. It is the combination. It's just enough of that little sweet and savory.
I don't know.
Oh, yeah. This is
shall
just
we?
yummy. Yeah.
Wow.
And the crunch. Oh my goodness gracious. So good. Really good. See, I'm dripping all over me. So good.
There's a freshness to all of this food. Like,
yes,
it's good, but it feels like you're not like you're eating delicious food, but you don't have to feel guilty about it.
I know exactly. That's just it. I know. We always just say, how do you not, you know, like, I don't know, how do you not go crazy? And I said, well, I go crazy, but we have so many choices. And we have healthy choices, delicious choices, but even these choices, they're still really yummy and very, very fresh. That was super important to us, is that our ingredients were really fresh and that people walked away with the sentiment that you have.
Oof. What's your favorite thing on the menu? Come on, let's hear it.
Okay, well, okay.
I don't know if it's on the table.
Well, this one here is a fan favorite. This here is Ingrid Otero Smart's favorite.
Ingrid.
Ingrid.
All right, let's find out.
And she is the reason we are here today.
Yes, she is. Shout out, Ingrid.
Hi, Ingrid. This is the mushroom truffle flatbread.
Wow.
With Alfredo sauce.
Oh my God.
And it is so good.
It smells so
cooked
good.
beautiful. And then has some Parmesan cheese, freshly grated. So good.
You're killing me right now.
So this as an appetizer is absolutely one of my favorite. The avocado crunch salad is my favorite, along with a steak salad. There's another really delicious steak salad cooked to perfection. And my favorite dinner dish, which we're having brunch today, but is the salmon. Oh my gosh, the best I've ever had. And I've had salmon everywhere, the best you will ever have.
We're gonna have to come back for this, because I'm not much of a salmon person, but if I need to get introduced to all this. Maybe this
our
is
chef has a secret sauce that he uses, and at some point we're gonna bottle it and we're gonna sell it.
Oh my God!
It's that good.
Oh my gosh!
And then we just introduced a petite filet that is absolutely, it's grass fed, and again it's absolutely delicious and is perfect. And of course, you know, Kyle's favorite is cowboy steak. It's a 16-ounce ribeye with cowboy butter just like oozing, and it is so incredible.
I love how like passionate you are. Like I can tell, like you're like you know what you're bringing to the people here, and I'm always very passionate and fascinated by like how do people get to this place, you know, like and so I would love to start talking about your story of like how do you get to a place like this where you're like, I can tell in your eyes you're so happy that you have this business and you're really proud of it. And so we're going to go back a little bit in time, right? Because one of the things that Sylvia said to me, which I always thought was like, oh, I want to talk about this, is is that you really truly love what you do, and you always have, you always, you know.
Right.
And I'm gonna let her share with you her career, which is like very outstanding. So my first question is, why don't you tell everybody, like, before the restaurant, like what all the things you were doing, and also figuring out, like, how did you find what you love to do? And because a lot of the times when people love what they do, sometimes it's like takes over their identity and this idea of fulfillment. And I really liked what you shared about that. So do you mind sharing a little bit about your career and what it means to be fulfilled with all that?
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for asking. As you're asking this, I'm like, oh my gosh, thinking of where do I even start? And I'll start with, you know, I'm a daughter of Mexican immigrants, and I'm U.S. born, and they came here for a better life, you know, the American dream. And they really worked hard and taught us, you know, really work ethic. That's like the number one thing they taught us is work ethic, and that there's no cutting corners, really. There's no cutting corners. And they were incredibly supportive. I went on to be one of the first to graduate from a university. I went to Pepperdine University on a scholarship.
Wow.
And that, you know, really, it was kind of unheard of back in the day for Latinos to go to college, let alone to graduate, and so on. And I went on to graduate, and I chose a major that I felt was just in line with my personality. And so I majored in broadcasting and a minor in business, because I always felt like I wanted to really understand the business of the business. And so my first job out of college was with Univision, and I was a, you know, entry-level sales assistant, and I was bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and ready, you know, they came in there, and I said, I'm bilingual and I can do this, and I'm college educated. You know, I wanted to make a point that, you know, that I wanted to do this job, and I really loved the fact that I grew up with Univision. And so, of course, my parents were so proud of that. And, you know, as Latinos, we want to make our parents so proud all the time. They work so hard to give us this education that, for me, launching my career there was just magical. From there, I jumped over to the competition. So I was there for 7 years. Came over to Telemundo. And I think here's a little bit of where that entrepreneurial part is. So it's you know, it was fairly new. I mean, compared to Univision, who has been there for decades. And Telemundo was fairly new, and I felt like a little bit of, I might be leaving the king for the queen, but I felt like there was a great opportunity with the queen. So I accepted a position with Telemundo, and I felt like, oh boy, that was the floodgates opened wide on that one, and I absolutely just loved my job. And I really, it was the people that I was working with, and I loved being in Spanish language media. I felt like I could change Spanish language media from what it was, and being at the Queen, I was able to do that. So being at Telemundo, I was able to feel like an entrepreneur. I ran my own office. I felt like I ran my own business. I had leadership that was just so open to allowing us to incorporate our ideas and implement change, and that makes you fall in love.
I was gonna say,
right? That makes you fall in love when you feel like you are making a difference in this company. And I felt like, you know, while I was afraid to make a move from the king to the queen, I'm glad that I did, because quite frankly, I was exactly where I was supposed to be. It was the decision that wasn't made lightly, and I took full advantage of that. And from there, quite frankly, I was there for years doing advertising sales, and quite frankly, it's the coolest job no one's ever heard of.
You tell them.
What do you do? I sell commercials. I sell puffs of air.
What?
Like what? Oh,
yeah, that is a position. Yeah, that's a job.
It's a job.
Yeah,
you know, it's creating commercials, and at the time, you know, the business was so young, so we really did have an ability to incorporate our creative element, and it was a combination of business analytics with creativity, and I just absolutely loved it. Continued to do that for about another, 20 years, in which then Comcast came in and bought Telemundo, which then became part of NBC Universal.
Oh, that's right.
And then I hopped over to the NBC Universal side, but still really focused on the Latino marketing, multicultural marketing. I felt so purposeful. I felt like I really was doing something good for the community. And at that point, I also started to dig into my mentorship. And it's just that organic mentorship that I didn't say, oh, I want to be a mentor today. It's the way it just sort of all started working itself out.
Yeah.
And they have a Latina who now is in a leadership position. And I'm given this amazing platform. And you could do really good with platform, or you could do really bad with platform. And I chose to do really good and just started mentoring people such as, like myself, who first generations who really didn't have much direction, but that had the pasión.
See, as you're like talking me, while talking me through this, I'm like, there's really, there's people like you, there's people like Ingrid, like there's people in this world that just want to support, they want to make a difference, they want to feel purposeful. And I always think about like, okay, who was Sylvia when she was 10?
Oh, exactly. Who's Sylvia?
Like,
right here.
what is that about? Yeah, because I'm just like, it's un don. Like, I think it really is something that you're just born with this this need to want to. So yeah, can you describe what?
Yes, I was just like myself. Yeah, and I had leadership skills. I was always president of this. I was head of that. Always in leadership positions. I knew and I felt in my heart that I was going to be more, not in the sense of the value part of it. I'm talking about make a difference out there, that I was going to do something that not was only going to be good for me and make my parents proud, but really be a game changer out there for the Latino community, male and female. And I felt like I want to be an architect of change. And I was that girl at 10 years old, the one, who was always selling the peanut brittle, and I wanted to be first place, and because I wanted to give it my all. And I always felt like when people say, were you competitive? I was competitive, okay? But I was competitive with myself. It was really more about being the best version of myself and making sure that I was being my personal best. And I didn't really focus.
Okay, you're touching on something really, really important, I think, what you're saying. Because I literally just had this conversation with somebody about how important it is to, when you're comparing yourself, right? Because we all have the ability to do that. But this idea of what you're saying about like really looking at how I'm doing and versus like comparing yourself to other people. Is that something that resonates with?
People told me, even people say you don't compete with others, you compete against yourself.
Oh, literally.
And I'm like, drop the mic.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and that is the truth. So there's a competitive spirit, but it's really about trying to be the best version of myself and showing up in the best possible way that I can. Not just for myself, but for others as well.
You said you'd worked there for 20 years, but 20 years, I want to talk about those 20 years, okay? Because in terms of being motivated, like you're saying, and like still having that positive passion. Like what, do you look back at the time and you think like, was it certain people in your life that helped you? Was it certain things that you did that with your time that you feel fueled this? Because I think, I'm trying to navigate things too, and I always think like, oh my gosh, like you are smiling, you're radiant. And I'm like, to me, that's a human, like, that your soul, that your spirit is just so lively. Like that's, to me, I'm realizing how important it is to preserve that in the midst of everything going on in the world and all your ambitions. So is there anything that stands out to you?
I think that when you are doing what you were born to do, and I believe that I found my purpose in mentoring, teaching, and inspiring others. And I was able to do that in the platform in which I was, working. Like my career allowed me to do that. And I was with, Telemundo for the 20 years, and Univision for the 27, and another, 10, so 36, almost 37 years in my holistic business. And a lot of that really was, I loved what I did. I felt like it was a combination of the ability to use the gifts God gave me and then apply the skills that I learned. And so I was able to be satisfied in my job. I found meaning in what I did because I worked for so many years for the Latino community. Like I was representing, and that brought me so much joy, right, and purpose. And I felt like I'm making a difference out there. I opened doors to being able to speak in symposiums and lead panels and really just inspire. I mean, I was part of Girls Inc. and I led the Women for Girls. It was just people like constantly using these opportunities to build other people, because when you focus, really the focus comes not from yourself, but it's about serving others, right? It's like you want your legacy to be that you gave more than you took. And I felt that I was able to do this in all of these years through my job. And my job was my job and career, and I didn't place who I was on just my career. I was a lot of things. I was a mom.
Listen to this, yo.
I was a friend. I was a daughter. I was a leader. And I knew that if the career went away, that I would still be a mom and a friend and a leader and all of these other things. And so I didn't put up my entire identity in just that.
Well, that's beautiful and inspiring to hear. One thing you talked about too was this idea of stretching. I think a lot of us, when we're faced with challenges or, we don't know how to do certain things or we're uncomfortable. You talked about this idea of like there's some challenges that come your way and it really helps you to stretch. Like, I really appreciate your openness to change and stretch. And like, I just want to hear more about how do you have that mindset, or like what helps you with that? Because I think it's really important.
Well, on a career standpoint, I had a manager who really stretched me. I mean, he just kept on, putting me in the front lines of things that I myself didn't think that I could do. It's like, pick someone else, pick someone better. Why are you picking me? It's like, and I remember him saying to me, because who's better than you? He believed in me in ways that, when I was younger in my career, when I needed someone to believe in me. And then I had, back then we didn't really have these mentors in that sense, but we did have champions. And I had some champions in my life. I had another manager boss who was my best friend, who also I could do no wrong in her eyes. And, and that's Hillary. So Hillary, if you're watching this, shout out Hillary, because she believed in me as well. And she just thought that she loved me for who I was and really helped to stretch me and believe in myself. And so that combination of when you have people really believing and constantly stretching you and saying, I know you could do more, I know you could be more, and then I just started believing in myself. So that really was part of it. On a personal standpoint, that's
that too.
That one's a little deeper. I did lose my first husband in a tragic motorcycle accident, and overnight I became a single mom.
Wow.
And that, I can tell you, is not something that you sign up for, and not something you say, oh yeah, someday I'm going to be a single mom. As a matter of fact, I thought I had told myself I'll never be a single mom. I was going to, because I just know the hardships of that. In our Latino community, you see a lot of that, and so I really didn't think that was going to be part of my story ever. But it was, and it is, and quite frankly, it inspired me to be the best possible mom that I could be to my son Christian.
Wow! Oh my God!
And I know I get emotional about that.
Yeah, I didn't. Wow, that is like.
Because you have to be mom and dad, and I wanted to maintain my career, and I became very loyal to the leaders of the company because they allowed me to do that, and they were there for me, and they said, we don't want to lose you and leave at this point. We want to support you, and so we're going to allow you to take your time to come back, and quite frankly, it was the best year of my career after that because I felt so supported and I felt so loyal to the company that allowed me to spend time with my son and to really be there for him in a time that was so crucial. He was only 3. So that does play in a part because I really realized how strong and resilient that I was. And
oh my gosh.
I felt like it was right? I was just like, I can also speak to those single moms who have told me, oh, you don't know what that's like. Like, you probably don't even know what that's like. And I could say, no, but I do. And I understand you, I hear you, and I see you.
Oh my gosh.
And these are some of the ways, that I learned to balance, work and life and being a, single mom. And then, 5 years after that, I was blessed to meet my wonderful husband, Kyle.
I was like, where is he? Hey! mind if I ask you, like, where do you find that strength in yourself? Like, where do you find it? Is it, I don't know, it's like, is it something that you just, I don't even know how to.
Well, I would say it's my spiritual, you know,
Yeah.
it really is. It's just, I'm a woman of faith, and I always believe that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, and that everything, you know, happens for a reason. And this was part of the plan. It was part of, you know, God's plan for my life. And so I build on that strength. My parents were incredibly, you know, religious. My mom was a woman of faith, and I would see her unwavering faith. And when tragedy hit me, I just was really, really faithful, and I just said, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to believe that, you know, God has a plan for me, and he showed that he had a plan for me, and I was just going to follow. I was not going to take things into my own hands. I was going to, you know, believe that all good things happen and come together for those who love him and are called according to his purpose. And so that kept me inspired, and that's what it was just believing that I was going to be okay, and that I had that faith was wrapped around for me. So that truly is it. There was no, you know, there was no other things other than that, and really having a wonderful family support, and even in my career. So that was the thing, but a lot of friends that just really came together for me, and loved on me, and loved on my son.
Oh, man.
Yeah, which then allowed me to heal in time for them when I met Kyle, and then he had one daughter, and so we became a blended family.
Oh my gosh.
And the one thing that, you know, I loved was that he had that love for food.
Oh yes, that food,
wine, travel.
You want to give her a plate? Let me give her a piece of this one.
Yeah, and these huevos rancheros. These here are inspired.
Oh yeah, the tri salad. Yeah.
We're an inspiration from my home life. My mother always made huevos rancheros, and so that was super important to make sure that we represented in our menu as well. So super great. Journey, you know, continues, and so once after 36 years of being in the media industry, I decided to dedicate my time and jump into the business with my husband, who had been, you know, building the business, and so now we do this together, and it's been a real joy. Yeah. So I took about 6 months off of my NBC retirement.
Good. I was gonna say
to do tons of travel to continue to be inspired, and taking all the cultures and all the wonderful things, you know, that life has to offer. And then I was, you know, blessed to jump into this role and jump into the skill sets. You know, you and I talked about that too.
Yes.
It's like these amazing skill sets that you learn from your corporate career, and I was able to bring them over into my own business, and it's really been a magical thing, again, that I think has all come together in exactly the right time.
10 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So 10
Cheers
years
to
ago.
10 years.
Cheers to 10 years. Okay, 10 years, like, what are like some major things you've learned? If like anybody who wants to out there, like, well, we're barely starting our adventure, I guess we'd call it adventure of starting our own business, but like, what stands out to you? You're like, oh, if I could do it again, like, is there anything that comes to mind?
Yeah, I think it's, well, first and foremost, it doesn't happen overnight. And I think we have to learn patience, you know, we really have to learn patience. You got to do your research. You really have to do your research about everything. I mean, there were some things that, you know, we look back and said, oh, you know, because you're not going to always get it right 100% of the time. But the beauty in this is that you can constantly be pivoting. You're constantly pivoting. It's like, okay, I didn't get it right here, but I'm going to make these changes, these tweaks, and I'm going to, you know, get it right the next time, and I'm going to do better the next time. And it's relying on other people too. You can't do it by yourself. You can't do it on your own. So it's really surrounding yourself around people who have your best interests, you know, who are, who now we can say are mentors or can weigh in, who have done it, right? You want to admire and look into people who've actually done it.
Yes.
Right? And that's another part of it, is to surround yourself around those people who are successful, and you say, you know, I want to look at their business, looking at their business model. And I would just say that it's the people that you work with We didn't do this by ourselves. We've had a tremendous team. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for our amazing award-winning chef, Adrian de la Torre III, or for our wonderful, wonderful staff. Everything from the hostesses, when the moment you walk into the establishment, you know, to the servers who serve you, to the bartenders back at the bar who are serving the wine, to the cooks in the kitchen. Shout out to them, because they kill it night after night, day after day, and they go and do it again. And they do this phenomenal job, and they put together this amazing presentation. And so the back of the house folks are just priceless. They really are amazing. And then, you know, the wine club managers, the event people, the marketing folks, the general managers who are running the stores, the employees who are doing that. I mean, really, it's like a village who support Kyle and myself, you know, as the business owners, and they execute on our vision. And so, you know, I would say that what makes us so successful is really the people we work with and who help to make our vision and execute on our dreams. And, you know, if we're successful, they're successful, they're successful, we're successful.
Okay, can we talk about, like, when you say this breadth of, like, this full team that works with you, that's a lot of responsibility. As a newbie, for me, I'm like, oh my God, that's so much responsibility. Like, what helps you to manage and feel that responsibility in a way that doesn't overwhelm you or cause so much fear? Because I feel like that's something that I experience. What's up?
Hello.
I don't know if with that, what do you think of that question about the fear?
The fear. Well, I think when I first asked Kyle, if fear is not a factor, what would you do? And that's when this happened. So the fear is there, but one of the things that that I learned in corporate that I've carried on over here too is that I'm not going to ask my employees to do anything that I'm not willing to do myself. So if they see me rolling up my sleeves and they see me picking things up off the floor and they see me greeting people with joy and excitement, and they see me really just digging into the job like I'm asking them to do, I think that they see me as an example to do that. And so I look at them and say, I'm not alone in this. Like, we have a whole team, and you're not alone in this, and we got you. Because fear is a real thing, you know. It's a real thing. Yeah, we haven't even gotten into the whole imposter syndrome thing. So maybe that's the time for that break.
Yeah. Yeah, let's take a break and then we'll jump into that one.
All right.
I want to cheers because we took a little break, but let's cheers. So which one's what? Which one's what?
So this one is the regular orange, like mimosa.
Okay.
This is the pomegranate.
Ooh.
Yeah, this here is the pineapple mimosa, and this is watermelon.
You know what? I'm a big pineapple fan.
Okay, so is Kyle.
Oh, really?
There you go. Yeah.
Okay, and how about you?
And I'll do the pomegranate to match my jacket.
I love it. Cheers.
Salud.
Salud, because we're going to talk about motherhood, y'all. So we need to cheers to this.
Okay, we need to cheers to this one.
Do you want one?
Amazing.
You sure? You sure?
Okay.
Okay, so motherhood. You know, it's funny because I would tell you that a year ago I wouldn't have asked you anything about your motherhood, but as I'm growing into my own and exploring the possibility of being a mother, like I'm really excited about it. I'm really nervous about it.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it's a big deal. And you had mentioned imposter syndrome. So I know, like, imposter syndrome, I feel like can be applicable to career, but also, like, am I going to be a good enough mother? Like, it's sad, but, like, that is a question I have, is like, am I going to be a good enough mom? And so for you, how has motherhood been, that experience for you, that transition into motherhood? How was that for you?
Yeah, that's
quite a question, huh?
That's a really good question. I know you're going to need a drink for that, for sure. But yeah, and well, we're going to start with imposter syndrome. And I'll tell you, I think that's something that has now come to light more than years ago. I mean, we know that there was something, but we didn't know what it was. So we didn't know what it was called. We didn't know that there's actually a word for it. We knew what we felt. And in a career standpoint, am I ever going to be, good enough? They're going to discover that I'm not that great. I keep getting promoted, but oh my gosh, it's these things, but you can't label it because you don't even know what it is. So you can't really deal with something you don't know what it is. So you kind of like for years kind of let that go, and then we would talk about it amongst ourselves. You feel a little like that, but we didn't know. And so we'd be like, yeah, I feel that way too. Okay, and so on. But now that, we really is out there, and people are talking about it, and there's podcasts about it and so much, I can tell you that the imposter syndrome, the way I think it can manifest itself and the way it shows itself up is you have a career and you just love what you do. Let's just say you love what you do. In the case for myself, I just loved it, and I loved the people, and I just felt like it was utilizing like all my skill sets, the gifts God gave me, and I just felt like it was exactly where I was supposed to be. Okay. And so I felt, like I wanted to grow, and I wanted to continue to, be promoted and do greater things. And it was part of, like, since back to the 10-year-old, when I was 10-year-old, the number one peanut brittle salesperson, I wanted to also continue to grow my career. I think where it shows itself up is when you have kids and you're just like, oh my gosh, I'm not spending enough time. I'm not doing enough. I'm not, baking those muffins, and I'm not doing this because I'm traveling, because I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And it's something that I think we have to deal with individually. I think we have to sort of see our circumstances for what they are and just say, you know what, I'm not going to feel guilty for wanting to also not have to sacrifice myself 110% when I can do both. I can do both. Now, that I can do both, you have to figure out how to do both.
What that looks like.
So many celebrities talk about you can have it all, just not out at one time. And so I think that a version of that, I think for myself is, I think you can have it all. Because guess what? We all have different definitions of what all is. Because to me, being able to raise a child that is stable and well-mannered, and that understands what I'm doing for a living, like understands why I work and that I love working. And part of working for me is to be a better mom. Because to me, that's all, right? And that this kid could be, a contributor to society, and who can grow up believing that women can also be leaders and VPs and presidents and so on. Right. That to me helps to combat that whole imposter thing. I'm not good enough. Oh my gosh, not spending enough time, not doing this. To look what I am teaching my son, my children, that we can be it, that we can do it, that we don't have to sacrifice one or the other to achieve it. And that to me is very, very important. That's the message I want to give, that, we can have it all, and we just have to define what all is to us individually.
I noticed too, you're being very honest about what it is that you value, what is true to you. Like you mentioned that 10-year-old Sylvia, and I think, I don't know, I'm sure, I don't know if you saw this as a mother, but I'm coming to realize how important it was for that 10-year-old Jackie, what she honored and what was important to her. And I find myself more and more relating to her more now as a 30-something-year-old, and being like, wow, that really is true to who I am and what fires me up, what lights me up. I don't know if that, as a mom, when you were raising your son, that you saw that. Do you see him now, and you see him now in his 20s, and you're like, there were moments where you're like, that's what I saw when he was growing up. Do you see that?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think about, right now I went back to my 10-year-old self, and that's the other thing, the beauty of 10, that was the other thing, I didn't know, that those insecurities, I just believed that I could do it. I just believed that I could be this leader, and I could believe a lot of it was centered around the foundation, right? I just had good morals and values. I had good self-esteem.
That's a gift, because not everyone has good self-esteem.
Right. Well, and
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I just did, and I had a lot of friends who made me feel good about myself, and I just really valued myself because I did more so than I think a lot of yeah, I guess I would say a lot of my friends, you know, how they felt based on maybe the way they were raised or their environment or so on. But I was that, you know, very, you know, feisty, kind of like I can do it, always raising my hand, always wanting to do a good job. But I was always, I cared a lot about people from the time that I was young. I was really, it mattered more to me how I treated people, how I made them feel. You know, Maya Angelou says, it's not
I love her.
what you say or do, it's how you make me feel.
Right there.
Yes,
right there.
and I look at that and I want to carry that on to who I am today. Raising my son, I raised him to be kind, and anyone who knows him will tell you he is probably one of the kindest person you'll ever meet. And he has that. He's that 10-year-old kid who is now in his 20s, and he still has that foundation of kindness. And I always wanted to give him the same thing. You can do anything. You're going to do amazing things. And again, amazing is what you think you define amazing to be, not what others define amazing to be, right?
Yeah, and even, you know, hearing this advice from you, it makes it feel like, it makes me feel it makes me feel more confident that I can, if I have a child, can give them that's the biggest gift is to their character, you know, what you're teaching them with that. So that makes me feel like more confident, and it makes me feel like it's more accessible. Like, okay, like I'm looking at Anna, I'm like, we got this, because it can be really overwhelming, but that's really, it's really nice to hear it from that perspective. So
and I'll tell you, when I was a single mom, that was the other thing. It's like, at first I was like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to make these decisions? You know how you make them, you make them. You make the decisions.
You just make them,
the best for that child, right? Your child, and you know, all children are different, and so I made the best decisions based on who he was as a person, on his personality, even what schools he went to, all of those. I just looked at who he was. Where would he be, you know, able to really blossom and manifest all those God-given talents for himself and utilize them, and where he just could be who he was, and all those things that you look at your kids for. But I was so afraid of being a single mom. Oh my gosh, I was so afraid before I became one, though. Even before I became one, I was like,
really?
Yes, I was just like, I don't want to be that. It's too hard.
Oh my gosh.
I can't imagine. And then I became one overnight, and I was just like, oh, okay, now what? And you know what? It was okay. And that's the other thing. You're going to be okay. I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to tell you know, the viewers here that if I were to say something like my 10-year-old self to myself today, I'd say, you know what? You're going to be okay. How simple is that?
Wow.
You're going to be okay. What's meant for you is going to come to you, and what's not is not. And the timing it's all in the perfect timing. All in God's perfect timing.
Was there a moment before you met your wonderful husband over here, when you were a single mom, where you were like, was there a moment where you're like, wow, like I am proud of myself, like I can do this? Like, was there a moment or a situation or just a timing in that duration?
Yeah, I think once I accepted, like once it happened, I was just like, oh my gosh, okay, I've got to start making these decisions by myself, and then I did. And well, look at like the person here. I said, I want all that credit for him. Like now, I'm just like, all those good things you have, those are because of Mama. All the other stuff, you got those from external sources. But joking aside, I do. I'm okay. I think while there was that fear before I became one, once I was actually in it, I thought, you know, this isn't so hard. This isn't so bad. This isn't so daunting as I thought it was going to be. But you have to parent with intention, and I think I parented with intention.
Ooh, you know, it's funny you're saying that, because like as you were describing how you were raising your son right now, I was like, wow, this woman is like, you seem like you were very committed, very engaged, and intentional with how you were going and what you were going to teach your son. So when you say that, I'm like, that's what you were. And I think, I know I'm not a mom yet, but I'm assuming, like, I'm sure with a lot of moms out there, like maybe they find it challenging to be intentional, because it is work. It is
it's a lot of work. Yeah.
So what helped you be in that space to be so intentional? What was it for you?
Well, I wanted to raise a gentleman. I wanted to raise the kind of man I would want to marry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that's good.
Right?
Yeah.
So I taught him to be kind, to be generous, to love God, to be, secure in himself, to value himself.
Value himself. That's
yes.
Like, can we just take a moment
Take a moment on that one?
Because that is so huge. I've literally been, this has been in my periphery, is somebody that I know, my friend, Eli, shout out. Her mom is a therapist, and she's like, growing up, my mom would tell me that I'm my first love.
Exactly.
And I was like, I've never heard of that. Like this idea that you are your first love. And I'm like, holy. So when you say like that, value yourself, like it, just even hearing those words of like, that's how you're parenting is very beautiful, because I don't know, like in Latino household, like sometimes you don't necessarily feel that way,
right.
So how was it, how did you realize that was something that you knew you wanted to share with your son?
Well, to your point.
I know what happens. No.
To your point, I do think that's, well, first and foremost, we talked about the Latino household. There were a lot of things we weren't able to talk about. There were so many taboos. You can't say that. You can't mention that. You have to, you're constantly living in this, like you can't do that. What are the neighbors going to think? Sweep it under the carpet. That didn't happen. I mean, these things that just don't validate you in that way. Value isn't really taught. That's not really one either. Yeah, so you grew up looking for validation from other people, other things, material things. I mean, I can go on and on. And that was one of those things that I caught on early, that I wanted my son to value himself as a human being. I wanted him to love himself. I wanted to look at himself. I used to tell him all the time, I want you to see you the way we see you.
Oof. Wow, incredible, right? Growing up with something like that. That's incredible.
Right, because we think he's wonderful, we think he's kind, all these things, it's like, that's how I want you to see yourself. And those adolescent years are really, really tough. And even Taylor Swift is telling about her story, right?
What Taylor said?
Right, well, Taylor was saying when her story starts with, she was in high school, and she called to invite all her friends. Oh, do you want to go to the mall? Do you want to go to the mall? Each one of them said, oh, I can't, had an excuse. So then her mom was like, fine, I'll go to the mall with you. And Taylor goes to the mall, and guess what she sees? All her friends there without her.
Oh, I didn't know this.
Yeah, and that's an impetus from one of her songs. And so those are the things, it's just like the adolescent stage is really, really tough. And so you constantly have to be reminding your children that you are worthy, you are valuable, you are loved, you are safe, all of those things.
Oof, beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, so I know that eventually your husband here came into the picture, and you formed a partnership. And I do want to talk. You mentioned how important it is, to have a partnership where you're supporting each other. It's interesting enough. Like, there's a lot of people that I've interviewed where it's like, and a lot of like entrepreneurs, women who are like, if it wasn't for my partner, my husband, like. It's like it is a thing. It's a thing. I was like, wait, there's like a pattern, a trend here. Like, you really do need the person that's in your life who's sharing, living this life with you, to be supportive of what you believe in. Anna, has been taking chances with me, and it would have not been the same without her. And so, can we talk a little bit about your experience with your husband and that partnership?
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. This is your life partner, and really, so when people ask me like, how are you able to travel and have this career and be able to do that commute and all of these things, it's because I had a great partner. Partner in every sense of the word. Shout out to Kyle over there. And he was so supportive of everything, though. Supportive. He ended up adopting my son. So my son, about a year into our marriage, and said, I want to give him, I'm his father, and quite frankly, he's the only one he remembered. He was 3, and I want to, I love this boy. We're going to raise him as our own. Like, this is my son. And so that was like the first sign of real partnership outside of being married, because I'm now giving up my son. To someone, and they become, when you adopt someone, they become your child legally. So that was a big thing that he supported, parenting and the way that we blended our families and blended in his daughter, Brooke, and we became this family unit. I mean, all of those things were all because he was supporting. He knew he knew my tragedy, and he was divorced, and so I understood his, and that sense that we really needed to be, a bond. And then when it came to the career, he was just very supportive. We weren't competitive. There was nothing like that. It was all pure support, and he was at everything. Anytime I would get an award or he would get an award, we were just always there for each other. But I'll tell you, knowing he was at home, knowing he was helping to prepare lunches, knowing that they were going to have dinner and be bathed and be taken care of and picked up, and all of these things gave me so much peace. And only that, like through a great partner, was I able to grow in my career. I wouldn't have been able to do it. I couldn't have. And so I was really, really fortunate. And in this business, we've supported each other. I had one role, he had the other role, and we've been partners. Now we're in it together,
literally,
literally in it on the daily, and we've just become so close, even closer. In the business has really brought us together because we have a common goal, and that's to, the success of this business, but also for our employees. I mean, it's a lot on us to make sure that we are successful and that we keep them employed and happy and all of that. So
we talked a little bit offline about this, but this idea of like what your partnership is, a lot of us are used to this linear path, and obviously the path of an entrepreneur is not very linear, right? Like it's you take a lot of risks, a lot of chances, but there's a lot of like you're building something together.
Yes.
For you and your husband, like how do you support each other in moments of, because there's moments where I'll speak for myself, where you're like, I don't know why are we doing this? Like, is it worth it? Is is it? I don't know.
Yes, we're going on cheers for 10 years, and it's not always cheers. It's not always cheers. Yeah, we have these conversations on the daily. Now that I've jumped in, and he's like, well, now you understand the numbers because now I do the numbers, and I do. I understand a lot more so of what he was up against or what he was doing that now makes so much sense. And and because we are different, actually, like our personalities are different. I mean, there is a lot of differences, as there are the foundational, right? But there are the differences in our styles. Like he was joking during the break, that he's very, very big picture. He's a builder. He builds things. He has these visions that are so big, and then I'm detail. It's just like, and I'm like, how are we going to make this happen? And so and sometimes like they complement each other, but sometimes it's just like he might not think that the minutia is that important. Sometimes I'm just like the big picture. I can't deal with the big picture right now because we got to deal with the granular. and so sometimes we have those discussions about what's more important, what's priority, and then we come to just an understanding. We have a lot of love and respect for each other too. So it doesn't ever get to a point where we're just like want to walk away altogether. But there have been times where it's like, what are we doing?
Well, that makes me feel honestly comforted to know that that there's some realities to it. But obviously, there's a lot of amazing moments, right? Where you probably look at it, right?
But I like that you brought that up, and because for anyone who is thinking about business and who's thinking about going business together, and as you guys too, there will be those moments, where there's the meetings of the minds, and there's the meeting of like the blow up of the minds, because you're not the same person. You have different thoughts, and by the way, you come in with different experiences, and a lot of some baggage, and a few things like and the way things should be, ought to be, not the way things are. And sometimes you have to like hone it down and say, you know what? Yeah, I'd like to have this, this, and this, but this is our reality today. So let's work with the reality. As I look at Kyle over there. I know, right?
We're both like,
we're probably going.
But you mentioned something really, I picked up on a word that you use, and I was like, I like that. I've actually heard someone actually say this. You talked about your marriage as, that you're not in, especially with careers, that you're not in competition of each other. And I think that's a really good point, because I mean, I always find myself like, where Anna and I were like, we're on the same team. Like, we want to support each other. Like, my wins are her wins are my wins.
Absolutely.
And I don't know, I feel like for you and your husband, like, when did you realize you're like, oh, we're in support of each other. We're not trying to, work against each other.
I think one of the best examples is when I came on board. I mean, here I am, right? I'm a VP of a large corporation.
Wow.
And it was different. It's not what people think, that I would come in as like this bulldozer, but instead I said, you know what? And I said, you are CEO of the company. You built this. You're the CEO, and I am the CMO. And I am the co-owner. Like, we're in this 50-50. We own it, and we're in this, 100% together. But let's be clear. Like, we have lanes, and sometimes those lanes are going to get a little muddy. But that's a big thing that, like back to intention, right? Because I come in with all this experience, and I want to just tell them how to do it. Well, let me tell you how to fix that. Let me tell you how to fix a restaurant that I've never worked in.
It's like with his glasses.
Yeah, it's going, I remember those conversations. But then I step back and say, this is not a competition. This is about us growing, like, again, rowing in the same direction.
Ooh, yes.
Having the same end goals. Utilizing our different skill sets. And the number one question that people have asked us since I've come on board. A, have you stepped on each other's toes yet? And B, do you want to kill each other?
And the answer is
no and no. Maybe sometimes here and there, yes. But for the most part, I think there is that. We have a unified goal, and this is our plan. This is our family plan. This is what we want to do until we really officially retire. And we love what we've built. We love this business. We hope to continue to do it. We've learned so much in a short period of time that I've jumped in and on. I've learned so much, and here's the reality of it. I learned a lot from him. I learned a lot from him.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think he's learned a lot from me too.
I think so.
And I don't think we're afraid to tell each other that. Like, you know what? I really understand now how to run coming from corporate and now running a small business. I see things now that I didn't know were there. I didn't see them before, but now I see them. And that's really kind of cool.
And that does remind me of what you were saying earlier. Like, there is a deepening of the relationship.
Yeah.
Anna and I, like, it's deepened our relationship, and but it also, I don't know, like, I'd like to say that it also is like, there is a lot of fear in being an entrepreneur, but there's just a lot of also excitement and room to dream, and room to, like, I tell her, I'm like, we get to build the life we want for ourselves, which I think is, I don't know, like, it's hard work, but it's also, like, beautiful because it's ours. Like, we're just so being intentional, back to your word. There's this intentionality that just, like, I don't know, it just...
Well, you just said it. It's ours. You just said it. It's ours, because that's what we say. This is all so much hard work. Oh, this is so much this. When I talk about, like, people ask me, how is it different than corporate? And, like, when I'm having lunch with some of my old colleagues, and I say, it's all consuming. You never shut it off, but it's ours. It's mine. And what I've learned that's different, that sometimes I forget. Like, I'll be like, oh my gosh, okay, I've got to get up and go work out. Oh, wait a minute. And I forget that I now manage my time and calendar.
That is
before
true.
It managed me. It's like I have to be somewhere, I have to be on the road, I have to be at this meeting, I have to do this. And now I have time for myself.
Yeah.
And that says, like, no, I will get this workout in. That's the beauty of owning your own business. So entrepreneurs, that's the beauty of owning your business.
That. It really
you manage your own time, and you have to learn to be comfortable with that, because you're so, like, there's times where, like, oh my gosh, I gotta rush this workout because I have to XYZ. But that's a behavior you learn throughout the years, instead of saying, you know what, I'm going to be in the moment, I'm going to enjoy my workout. I need it too. It's important. All good for many reasons: the mental health, the physical health, to release that, put the energy towards good. You will learn to manage your time. You will get that done. Why? Because it's yours. And you have to make sure that you're responsible for these people. You're accountable to these people, right? So you're going to get that done. But it's just in such a more liberating way. I feel like, I manage my own time. I manage my own schedule, and it's just this feeling of this liberating.
It is.
It's really
very
magical.
freeing. It is. And that's a good segue, though, because you mentioned something called mental health. Which I thought was really great. It's funny because you kind of talked about it earlier, but you had mentioned that mental health, like, was something that when you were, building your career and all this stuff, it was around, but there wasn't much terminology, right? Like there were ways to deal with it. So this is going to be a really fun conversation because you're talking to somebody who's like, dude, I'm like all about like mental health therapy, like you breathe. Like I had recently I was doing something and I had to like focus on my breathing, and the lady was like, do you do yoga? And I'm like, no, I just really am very very intentional about my breathing, and because of therapy and everything. So yeah, my question is, Sylvia, how are you feeling about now that there's such a great movement to being more transparent and honest about mental health and how that affects everyone's their well-being and how they navigate the world, their business, life, career, motherhood, everything, that this is an integral part of people's movement? What are your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are similar to imposter syndrome. Okay. We all knew it was there. We just didn't know what to call it. We didn't know what to call it. Growing up, again, in a Latino household, it's I push through. No, you don't. You don't really feel that way. Stop crying. Gosh.
What's wrong?
What's wrong with you? And so you're very suppressed. And so you're like, okay. So very, very suppressed. In back in our day, I also grew up in the 80s, and the 80s were very different. They were very much about making money and greed, and just really like at all costs, the Machiavellian ethic, the end justifies the means. You're trapped to be, and be Latina trapped in that.
There's like an added layer there of trying to be excellent because you're Latina.
Yeah, because you can't not.
You can't not. No, that's not an option.
You can't talk about it. You can't say to your parents, "Oh my gosh, man," because they're just like, "Get to work."
You're like, come on, yeah,
right. Like you can't. There's no time for that. You have to work, and so on. So how I feel about it today is that I now know it's there, it's real. I raised 2 children at this point, and I know that it exists, and I'm very, very involved in many organizations, including with my alma mater in this big mentoring, a big part of it. You cannot have a mentorship without talking about mental health and what that really means, and again, what it means to other people. And so when companies, our company right before I left, NBC Universal gave all the employees, a subscription to Calm, the Calm app, and that was lovely, and I downloaded it, I loved it, I still have it, it's great. But when I think about mental health, it goes beyond just the breathing, just the calm out. It is for employers to understand that a mom needs to take their kid to the doctor. Hi. Without having to feel guilty, without having to, to feel so bad and to figure out and sometimes miss the appointments because you just don't want to even ask for it. And that's what it was back then. I think what it is today, mental health is like, yes, I could take my kid to the doctor and I'll come and finish that project. I will do that. I will come back and sign on the computer. I will have dinner with my family. I'll come back and finish that project. All these things that give you this like breathing.
Well, you're human. Yes. You have a personal life. Yes. You have things that
and encourage the personal life, because that's the other part. It's like, and even being on phone calls and so and kids crying in the background. Back in our day, we had to go hide in our closet and have the conversation because, God forbid, there'd be a screaming child in the background. Because then all the deducing. Then I deduced you're not doing your job, not really working, you're not putting all these things that whether or not they're true, that they were our perception and perception's reality.
Yeah.
And so the way I look at it today, part of the mental health is having that liberty to go to the doctor for yourself, to take your kid to the doctor, to take a walk, in the middle of the day, to actually take a lunch break. Hi, how about just a lunch break? And there's books now that talk about you should never eat alone. That there's always you should be eating with someone, doing something where you're talking it out. How about talking it out?
Let's talk about talking it out. Can we talk about that?
Yeah, because a lot of people don't want to deal. They don't want to deal with what comes with all of the topics about mental health and what led people to feel the way they feel. Because again, feelings. Oh my gosh.
Feelings. I feel like people. I think that people think feelings are these like. I mean, I love my family. My family already knows. I'm very honest about the fact that I felt like I had to suppress my feelings.
Yeah.
And I was always told you're too emotional, you're too sensitive. And I've thanks to therapy, I've reframed the way I say that. Right. I'm very in tune with my emotions, and I honor them. To be frank, I honor them, and I recognize that sometimes it's okay to try to understand what you're feeling, so that you can not let that hold you back, or you know what I mean? And
well, because it was taboo, and it was sort of like people looked at you like if you said anything about your mental health, they had that look, exactly.
Yeah, they're okay.
And then there goes, exactly.
And it's like, are you okay?
Versus, tell me about it. How are you feeling? Let's talk about it. And let's discuss it over coffee. And I hear you. I see you. I feel that way too. And there's this Me Too. That's why that whole Me Too movement was so big, because it was like, me too. I feel like you feel, you're heard, you're
connection,
seen.
true connection on a, like, no more BS, I guess,
Right.
And it's so funny, like, I feel like part of it is just like you said, a connection. It's just knowing that there's a space to be honest and to be vulnerable.
Yeah. Which, back in our day, there was just no.
That was like, am I crazy?
No, Brene Brown, another Brene Brown. Oh my gosh, love her. And she talked that whole TEDx about vulnerability, and then she went on to write several books that touch upon it. But that vulnerable, no, you were not allowed to be vulnerable. People judged you. People then talked about you. That was the other thing. Back to the fear that if I expose something, or if I say something, that it's going to be completely blown out of proportion. I was just telling you I was having a bad day, or I wasn't feeling very well, and that became a mental breakdown. It just became so embellished for what it was. It was like I was having a bad day. Yeah, and
everybody has bad days, but nobody wants to talk about it. But
exactly.
It's like, like sometimes your energy level is different, but doesn't mean. So then my question to you now is, knowing that there was a sort of like, you couldn't, looking back, what were things that you did that helped you through that time?
Well, having good friends and saying, do you feel this way? Like, did you have this experience? Are you good? And then that person, those people. So it was a closer knit. I think now, obviously, with social media, everyone can put it out there. I'm probably still on the more private side of things, but I always thought that my other job should have been a therapist. Oh my God.
I think you would have. I think you did pretty good.
Yeah. I was like, because back to the 10-year-old, I was actually the problem solver in junior high, and I had an article and everything in the paper called The Problem Solver, because I was always problem solving, and I always felt like a therapist, like I really enjoyed it. So quite frankly, I was never afraid of being the recipient of it, never was afraid of hearing it out. I always felt like I had all the solutions. Whether I did or didn't, I always felt like I did. And so I think that's a part of it. I think what I look at itself now, I think how I dealt with it is we did find our group, our people, our safe space. That's the word, our safe space of who we can talk to about it. And now people like an Ingrid, for example, who when we talk, because we're that same generation, we can now talk more freely in a safe space, and knowing that we can actually talk about it now.
How does that feel for you?
Well, I think when it first started, in general, it was very uncomfortable. And I was just like, oh my gosh, people talking about their feelings like that way. And I was always told I was too loud, but I was never told I was too emotional. So I'm just like, okay, and now you're asking me to be emotional? Wait a minute. No. And so, no, I'm very comfortable with it now. I mean, I think we can talk, and quite frankly, it makes for a beautiful connection. It does. It makes for real friendship. What I have told in this era, let me tell you something, Jackie, in this era of my life, I don't have time for fake friendships. I don't have time for all of that fakeness. The people at my table, so to speak, will be those people that I can be myself with, that I could be honest, I could be vulnerable, I could be authentic, without fear of any repercussion, with judgment, without anything other than being real. Right? And then in turn, they're going to feel like they can be real too, and that we take it to the grave. That's what real friendship is. And if you don't have a reciprocity, that's not a real friendship. It cannot go one way. It cannot go one way.
It won't survive.
No, it needs to be me too. I get you. I'm going through that too. Oh wow, I thought I was the only one. I'm so happy to hear. As you've said several times, I feel better. But that's what we want to hear. That's what we want to do. So I've gotten more comfortable with it now. Now that it's a thing. And now that our kids talk about that mental health thing and their friends, and I'm fine with it. I'm comfortable with it. I'm easing into it.
I love that for you. I love that for you, really.
Thank you.
Because even as you were describing it, I'm like, oh my God, there's this pressure. And when you said there's this liberation, it's like you can just like breathe, you know, in a way that's
just
like,
say it. Yeah, and just say, this is what's going on. This is how I feel. And so sometimes now Kyle and I will go, this is how I feel. Because I'm going to add a third layer, you know. It's like, he's like Swedish, you know, those Swedish folks, you know, they, and it's interesting, isn't an era thing. It's not an era. It's not because they were, like we were in an era. There's is a cultural thing. It's just they're very stoic, and that's just how they're raised. And so it's like emotions. What are emotions?
You're like,
what? And I'm like, you know, these things called feelings,
which they all
by the way, I'm learning it too.
Right? I mean, Anna and I have had many conversations where I think communication is ultimately it's a beautiful thing, because then you get to understand each other better. You know? I found myself the other day like talking to my family, my parents, which are they're very what's it called? They're very patient with me, because you know they're of another generation. And but it was cute because I was like, you know, for me, reflecting and understanding how I am, who I am, like, and sharing it with them. They raised me, and just talking about it brings me joy. It brings me a feeling of connection if they understand me better. And luckily, it was cute. I called my dad the next day, and I was like, hey, like, I really appreciate that you just gave me the opportunity to just speak my truth or say what I was saying.
Exactly.
And he said, you know, it helps us understand you a little more. It helps you to understand you more, and in return be able to love you better. And I was like, oh my God, Dad.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I know. It's like, that's pretty cool.
Love you
Which
better.
was like, oh my God, okay, Dad, I see you. Yeah,
because ultimately, isn't that what it's all about?
Isn't that what it's all about?
Yeah, it's about love. It really is at the end of the day. I think we're all here. It's our birthright to be loved and love others. And I think at the end of the day, that's what it is. And understanding that we're all human, we're all different. You know, we all have our different ways of dealing with things, our different pathways. We're just, we're different. We're human beings.
Yeah. Beautiful.
It is.
Well, you know, there's two foods that are very different, but I always like to ask this question as I wrap up my interviews. Okay, you ready for this question?
Fire away.
What is she going to say? Okay, would you rather eat a donut or a torta?
Oh, I'm going to go for the torta.
Yes!
And it's got to be a torta ahogada.
You know what I love about this question? Most people say torta, and then when they say torta, they tell me immediately what torta is. Like, they mean it.
Yeah, I mean that.
I love that.
Yeah.
Torta ahogada. What would you put in it?
Ahogada. Well, I'm going to dip it in, like, I'm going to put meat and queso, and then I'm going to dip it in that hot sauce that's really ahogada. And then I'm going to eat it, and it's going to squirt all over.
It's going to just get all over, yeah. Oh, that sounds good. Okay.
That sounds good.
Well, Sylvia, this has been delicious. It's been insightful. It's been, I feel like I know you like 100 times more now, which is beautiful. Really happy for you and your husband. And this has been a delightful time. Anna's over here saying yes. Yes to the food. Oh my God. I'm going to definitely eat that last stuff.
Oh, you guys have to eat all of it.
Yeah, I was like, we will finish it up. But yeah, just thank you for sharing your story, for opening up here at Donas y Tortas. And
thank you. The pleasure has been mine. What an honor. I feel liberated.
Oh, we like that.
Exactly. And so really thank you for coming here and also sharing and being able to, establish this relationship. It's been such a pleasure. You and Anna, thank you. What an honor. And you know what else we're going to cheers to?
What?
Cheers to 10 years.
Oh, 10 years. Cheers to 10 years.
Rancho Capistrano Winery. We started and end with it.
Congratulations.
Thank you.